arithmetic. Matilda longed for her parents to be good and loving and understanding and honourable and intelligent. The fact that they were none of these things was something she had to put up with. It was not easy to do so, but the new game she had invented of punishing one or both of them each time they were beastly to her made her life more or less bearable. Being very small and very young, the only power Matilda had over anyone in the family was brain power. For sheer cleverness, she could run rings around them all. But the fact remained that any 5-year-old girl in any family was always obliged to do as she was told, however asinine the orders might be. Thus, she was always forced to eat her evening meals out of TV dinner trays in front of the dreaded box. She always had to stay alone on weekday afternoons, and whenever she was told to shut up, she had to shut up. Her safety valve, the thing that prevented her from going round the bend, was the fun of devising and dishing out these splendid punishments, and the lovely thing was that they seemed to work, at any rate for short periods. The father in particular became less cocky and unbearable for several days after receiving a dose of Matilda's magic medicine. The parrot in the chimney affair quite definitely cooled both parents down a lot, and for over a week they were comparatively civil to their small daughter. But alas, this could not last. The next flare-up came one evening in the sitting room. Mr. Wormwood had just returned from work. Matilda and her brother were sitting quietly on the sofa, waiting for their mother to bring in the TV dinners on a tray. The television had not yet been switched on. In came Mr. Wormwood in a loud check suit and a yellow tie. The appalling orange and green check of the jacket and trousers almost blinded the onlooker. He looked like a low-grade bookmaker dressed up for his daughter's wedding and was clearly very pleased with himself this evening. He sat down in an armchair, rubbed his hands together, and addressed his son in a loud voice.
"Well, my boy,"
he said,
"your father had a most successful day. He's a lot richer tonight than he was this morning. He has sold no less than 5 cars, each one at a tidy profit. Sawdust in the gear boxes, the electric drill on the speedometer cables, a splash of paint here and there, and a few other clever tricks, and the idiots were falling over themselves to buy."
He fished a bit of paper from his pocket and studied it.
"Listen, boy,"
he said, addressing the son and ignoring Matilda.
"Seeing as you'll be going into this business with me one day, you've got to know how to add up the profits you make at the end of each day. Go and get yourself a pad and a pencil, and let's see how clever you are."
The son obediently left the room and returned with the writing materials.
"Write down these figures,"
the father said, reading from his bit of paper.
"Car number 1 was bought by me for £278 and sold for 1,425. Got that?"
The 10-year-old boy wrote the 2 separate amounts down slowly and carefully.
"Car number 2,"
the father went on,
"cost me £118 and sold for 760. Got it?"
The son said, "Yes, Dad, I've got that."
"Car number 3 cost £111 and sold for £999.50.
"Say that again," the son said. "How much did it sell for?"
£999.50,
said the father.
And that, by the way, is one of my nifty little tricks to diddle the customer. Never ask for a big round figure. Always just go below it. Never say £1,000. Always say £999.50. It sounds much less, but it isn't. Clever, isn't it?
"Very," the son said. "You're brilliant, Dad."
Car number 4 cost £86, and it was sold for £699.50.
"Not too fast," the son said, writing the numbers down.
"Right, I've got it. Car number 5 cost £637, and sold for 1,649.50. You got all those figures written down, son?
Yes, Daddy, the boy said, crouching over his pad and carefully writing.
Very well,
the father said.
Now work out the profit I've made on each of the 5 cars and add up the total. Then you'll be able to tell me how much money your rather brilliant father made altogether today.
That's a lot of sums, the boy said.
Of course, it's a lot of sums,
the father answered.
But when you are in big business like I am, you've got to be a hot stuff at arithmetic. I've practically got a computer in my head. It took me less than 10 minutes to work the whole thing out.
You mean you did it in your head, Dad? The son asked, goggling.
Well, not exactly,
the father said.
Nobody could do that, but it didn't take me long. When you are finished, tell me what you think my profit was for the day. I've got the final total written down here, and I'll tell you if you are right.
Matilda sat quietly. Dad, you made exactly 4,303 pounds and 50 pence altogether.
Don't butt in,
the father said.
Your brother and I are busy with high finance.
But Dad...
Shut up,
the father said.
Stop guessing and trying to be clever.
Look at your answer, Dad, Matilda said gently. If you've done it right, it ought to be 4,303 pounds and 50 pence. Is that what you have got, Dad? The father glanced down at the paper in his hand. He seemed to have stiffened. He became very quiet. There was a silence. Then he said,
Say that again.
4,303 pounds 50. Matilda said. There was another silence. The father's face was beginning to go dark red. I'm sure it's right, Matilda said.
You little cheat!
The father suddenly shouted, pointing at her with his finger.
You looked at my bit of paper. You read it off from what I've got written here.
Daddy, I'm at the other side of the room, Matilda said. How could I possibly see it?
Don't give me that rubbish,
the father shouted.
Of course you looked. You must have looked. No one in the world could give the right answer just like that, especially a girl. You are a little cheat, madam. That's what you are, a cheat and a liar.
At that point, the mother came in carrying a large tray on which were the 4 suppers. This time it was fish and chips, which Mrs. Wormwood had picked up in the fish and chip shop on her way home from bingo. It seemed bingo afternoons left her so exhausted, both physically and emotionally, that she never had enough energy left to cook an evening meal. So if it wasn't TV dinners, it had to be fish and chips. What are you looking so red in the face about, Harry? She said, as she put the tray on the coffee table.
Your daughter is a cheat and a liar,
the father said, taking his plate of fish and placing it on his knees.
Turn the telly on and let's not have any more talk.
Essay competition. Ria has just come back from school after a long day full of action and excitement. The result of the essay competition held last Friday was out, and she had won the first prize. All the students, as well as the teachers, congratulated her, and her principal ma'am told her that she'd get Ria's name entered for a national-level competition if her parents agreed. This encouraged Ria a lot, and she came back home, almost running, to tell her mother all about it. Mama, you know what? My essay on water pollution has been judged as the best entry and has fetched me the first prize. Oh, how wonderful. Congratulations. Please read it out to me as I make the dinner for us all. I sure will. Though extremely weary, Ria goes to her study table and takes out the essay from her school bag, which she had dumped on it as she had entered, and begins to read it aloud. Water pollution, a slow but steady killer. What is water pollution? It is the contamination of streams, lakes, other water bodies, and even the underground water by harmful agents which can cause damage to all living beings. As water is essential to life on earth, it is a phenomenon to be avoided at all cost. All kinds of organisms are found in water as it supports life. But what gives life can take it as well. Yes, water pollution is a great threat to human civilization today. The major water pollutants can be classified into 3 categories: physical, biological, and chemical. The most harmful of these 3 is the chemical pollution. Chemicals, made use of to kill harmful insects and germs, pollute the water bodies when they flow into them. This in turn harms human beings and animals who use it. Widespread use of pesticides for agricultural purposes at times leads to the pollution of the drinking water. Nitrates, a pollutant present in fertilizer effusion, can cause serious damage to the babies in the form of anemia. What actually is fertilizer effusion? Can you please explain? This is water only, but carrying dangerous, damaging chemicals which flow to the water bodies from agricultural fields. It is indeed quite a frightening information. We will all have to be very careful about such alarming risks. This is not all. There is much more to come. She carries on reading. Heavy metals such as copper, lead, mercury, etc. enter water from several sources like automobile exhaust, industries, mines, and natural soil. When these harmful elements reach high levels in the body, they bring in long-term health problems. For example, cadmium, used in fertilizers, can be absorbed by crops. Cadmium? What is that now? Oh, it's a silvery white metallic chemical element which is harmful for health. In fact, what happens when people consume a lot of food, products made from crops grown with the use of such fertilizers, is that they can become critically ill. They can suffer from diarrhea, liver, and even kidney damage. The effect is more dangerous on children who are exposed to lead in water. They can be seriously affected and become mentally retarded. How very damaging! This is not all. There's still more. Added to this, many harmful organisms are found in drinking water. Water is often drawn from rivers, streams, and lakes to be used as a coolant in power plants and such other factories. Then this water, after being used, is returned to the main source. This definitely contaminates the water and causes fish and other water life to die near the source of discharge. This is not all. Water pollution is also caused by deforestation because trees and plants purify the air by breathing in the carbon dioxide, the chief source of pollution. From where did you collect so much information, Ria? Did anybody help you? Nobody helped me. I collected the material myself from newspapers, magazines, and the internet. But what is the way out? How do we save ourselves? I've not reached the end of the essay yet. However, since you are asking, let me come to the point now. In the city areas, the urban people must make conscious effort to control pollutions of all kinds. They must initiate a goal to stop the discharge of all pollutants into surface water. Municipal sewage must be cleaned from time to time. Strict laws should be implemented to compel the industries to treat their waste before discharging it to water bodies. Householders should be urged to use pesticides of all kinds sparingly. This can, to some extent at least, reduce the contamination. In the villages too, some measures to reduce the agricultural wastes, volume-wise, should be taken. And as a general measure, all drinking water should be filtered or boiled before being used to make it free from bacteria. Well, Ria, I'm proud of you, my girl. Now, as you drink tea, take a well-earned break. Thanks, Ma. Don't you think it's our duty to make people aware of the hazards of water pollution so that they themselves take measures against it without waiting for the government or other agencies to do it? Yes, we should. And you've made a good beginning. Portia's Suitors. Enter Portia and Nerissa. In truth, Nerissa, my little body is weary of this great world. You would be, sweet madam, if your miseries were in the same abundance as your good fortunes are. And yet, for all I see, they are as sick that have too much as they that starve with nothing. It is therefore better to be seated in the middle. Superfluity comes sooner by white hairs, but competency lives longer. Good sentences and well pronounced. They would be better if well followed. If to do so were as easy as to know what were good to do, chapels would have been churches, and poor men's cottages, princes' palaces. It is a good preacher who follows his own instructions. But this reasoning is not in the fashion to choose me a husband. Oh me, the word choose. I may neither choose who I would, nor refuse who I dislike. So is the will of a living daughter curbed by the will of a dead father. Your father was a virtuous man, and holy men at their deathbed have good inspirations. Therefore the lottery that has been devised in these 3 chests of gold, silver, and lead, where the one who chooses correctly chooses you. There is no doubt that it will never be chosen by any one but one who you shall rightly love. But what warmth is there in your affection towards any of these princely suitors that are already here? I pray you name them, and as you namest them, I will describe them, and according to my description, you may level at my affection. First, there is the Neapolitan prince. He's a colt indeed, for he does nothing but talk of his horse, and he makes it a great point in his own favour that he can shoe his horse himself. Then there is the County Palatine. He does nothing but frown, as one would say. If you will not have me, you may choose any one you like. He hears merry tales and smiles not. I fear he will prove to be the weeping philosopher when he grows old, being so full of unmannerly sadness in his youth. I would rather be married to a death's head with a bone in his mouth than to either of these. God defend me from these 2. What do you think of the French lord, Monsieur Le Bon? God made him, and therefore let him pass for a man. In truth, I know it is sin to be a mocker, but why, he has a horse that is better than the Neapolitans. He has a fiercer habit of frowning than County Palatine. He is every man in no man. He has everybody else's characteristics, but no personality of his own. If a thrush sings, he immediately starts to dance about. He will fence with his own shadow. What do you have to say about Falconbridge, the young Baron of England? You know, I say nothing to him, for he does not understand me, nor do I understand him. He knows no Latin, French, or Italian, and you will bear witness that I do not have even a penny worth of understanding of the English language. He certainly has the appearance of a handsome man. However, he's so queerly dressed. I think he bought his tunic in Italy, his breeches in France, his bonnet in Germany, and his manners from everywhere. Tell me, what is your opinion of the Scottish lord, his neighbour? He certainly has a neighbourly charity in him, for he received a box in the year from the Englishman and swore that he would pay him back when he was able to. I think the Frenchman became his surety and signed the bond under his name. You need not fear, my lady, in having to accept any of these lords. They have informed me of their decision to return to their homes and trouble you no more, unless you may be won by some means other than your father's imposition in depending on the caskets. I shall probably have to die an old maid, unless someone can win me over by choosing the right casket. However, I am glad that this set of suitors are being so reasonable and departing, for there is not one among whom I can favour. Do you remember, my lady, a young Venetian scholar and soldier, who had to visit us with the Marquis of Montferrat when your father was alive? Yes. I think he was called Bassanio. I remember him to be a man worthy of praise.
The 4 suitors are looking for you, madam, to take their leave, and there is a forerunner from a 5th, the Prince of Morocco, who brings word that his master the Prince will be here tonight.
Oh, if I could welcome him as happily as I can bid these other 4 goodbye. Come, lead the way as we shut the gates upon one set of wooers and another knocks at the door.